Okay, gentlemen, you know what today's date is?
No, June.
June 13th.
13th.
Okay. 1995.
Right.
So now we want to talk about
1944. Yeah, November, the 5th of November, 1944.
1944.
Tom and I were members of the crew of the airship K-34, flying out of South Weymouth, Massachusetts.
And this was the first time you two had shipped together?
Right. I'd come up from South America, and the crew that I was with, they disbanded the crew so that we were sort of less, some went to a utility squadron, and we were just kind of like pilots that were stuck in here and there. And so this was my first operational flight out of South Weymouth after coming up from South America.
But Tom,
and Tom, your crew was...
Yeah, I have flown with that crew of probably 500 hours or more.
Oh, really? So you're quite familiar with the
With
fellows
the-
who were on the crew?
Yeah, except for one which was filling in with, like Don was,
Mm-hmm.
a fellow by the name of Norton. He was an aviation machinist, mate.
And you took off at what time?
We took off about 11:30 in the evening, and our mission was to escort the troop ship Wakefield, which was the old SS Manhattan for the United States lines. And they were leaving New York Harbor about midnight. They were heading out to sea, and then they were going to turn and head northwest up to Boston, and they were going to get additional troops aboard. So we took off that evening at 11, and we were following the track down, checking for subs. We picked the ship up at about 1 in the morning, I believe, and then we stayed with it as an aerial escort back to Boston, is where they were headed. The only thing was that
Between 7 and 8 sometime in there.
they sent a message from the base to return to South Weymouth at the lowest safe altitude and the highest possible speed. What we didn't know was that a storm that had been going the day that we took off was clearing the area as we went southwest and no, southeast. And what happened, it turned around and came back over the field and was starting to snow on the field, because this was in November. And the only unfortunate thing was they didn't tell us about this. So we contacted the Wakefield by a hooded blinker and started back to the base, and ran right into the line squall of this real violent South Atlantic storm, North Atlantic storm.
Tom, what was your position in the ship? What was your flight assignment?
Well, I was a rigger, flight rigger, and I mean like our duties on there.
What did you do?
The rigger was
Cook?
cook, run machine guns, fore and aft, steer the ship, fly the ship at night when the officers was resting or sleeping, which we did that night. I was on the rudder, and Joe Bino was on the elevator. And then we got relieved in the morning, and then we went back into the ship to do whatever, cooking or sitting down or resting or something, whatever. And then from then on, why things started to bust loose.
Yeah, well, they made the ship ready for takeoff and landings, and they handled anything
yeah.
that had to do with rigging, the controls. And
Roll
things
up,
like
oh
that.
yeah, different, yeah, you mean as, I was trying to repeat what we do. Yeah, we do roll the wheel up
Right.
when we get up in the air and roll it down for landing and different things
We
like
didn't have
that.
hydraulic deal. Here was the hydraulics right here for the
Yeah,
for the
then we
wheel.
crank it.
You were just an all-around just crew position. You did
Right.
everything that they wanted. You did anything anybody wanted you to do.
Well, then, of course, I was a signalman by trade, and I would send message, you know, with the blinker gun. When
And that's what you did this evening, that evening?
I don't, that morning was, you mean.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I did that morning or whether one of the officers sent
I
out
don't think
these.
they couldn't do it too well.
Well, I was, but I mean,
You couldn't do it too well either?
no, I done it, as, you know, challenged different ships and stuff that didn't show any recognition of any kind, you know, no flags,
They didn't
no
answer
name.
you.
And then done that, and of course, we didn't have too much opportunity with it, you know, signaling on board there, but they occasionally with the blinker gun, why it was,
Well, they didn't
And-
want us to use the radio sometimes in case the German sub might pick it up, so if you were out
Sure.
on a convoy, sometimes you would use your signal blinker to make contact.
So anyhow, this storm
Now-
came up as you were heading back to...
I'm just gonna say that they were a crew of 10. We had two mechanics, two mechs, two riggers, and two radiomen, and we had 4 pilots.
Mhm.
So anyhow, we ran right smack into this roll cloud, the advancing roll cloud of the storm, and it kicked us up to over 1,000 feet. And as we found out later, it apparently started to rip the top of the envelope, just sort of popped it like you. And we came down maybe to around 400 feet, went back up to about another 800 feet, then came back down to 150 feet, and that was it. The command pilot, I remember, I never forgot, I was midships. I was trying to get some supplies out of the locker that was ahead of the mech panel. And I remember Livingston stood up and he said, "Stand by for a crash." He turned around and said, "I really mean it," you know. And then we did go in, because by this time they'd lost all control of the elevators and rudders. As the tail sections started to sag, the length of the cables, it was all manual. They had such a gap in them, or
Depending upon the
looseness in
integrity of
them.
the bag, too.
Yeah, and I judge about that time we'd probably lost about a fourth of the helium that we had. So we hit, I don't think we hit too hard personally. I think we hit on top of a wave, because waves, we had about waves probably 10, 12 feet high. And now comes the interesting part in a way, because the rigger's job, one of the rigger's job is to take the life raft out with them when you crash. And Bino was the other rigger, and he was standing by the aft door with the life raft. And when we hit, we were going sideways, and it shot him right out the door without the raft. And then the ship started to turn downwind as he was trying to swim to it. And the thing I always remember was, we went out that door. I never saw the raft. I didn't see anything. I went out that door into the water. Now, Tom, you take it from there, why we were able to get our raft.
oh, okay. Well, prior to that, my job was to take the back windows all out and secure them, you know, and the other rigger doing some other windows. So I had them all out, and then I seen the one engine stop. I said to myself, "Oh, well, we have another engine," you know, because we had on the intercom, stand by for possible crash. And then later on, I seen that engine come to a stop, and I know this is it. Well, it wasn't a little while later, everything turned black. We hit in on the starboard side and laid over. And when all I heard was somebody saying, "I'm getting out of this," I don't know if I can say it, you know, but so-and-so. And,
You're not going to curse.
no, it's all right.
Oh, all right, okay.
Maybe.
And
And
many
then,
people don't curse.
This is not an X
No.
video, X-rated video.
so then, somehow or another, I was wound up gonna go out that back windows. I don't know whether from being brought back out of there, and my Navy watch cap fell down too, and I thought, oh, so I'm gonna drop down and get that. But I thought, no, I better not, because maybe there's still somebody in the thing, and we're gonna find out what we're gonna do. And of course, Bino, I seen him swimming towards me and waving his hand. Well, I was just gonna go out the door, and I said, well, frick, the raft is here. So then I reached for my knife, was gonna cut it. I thought, no, maybe we'll need that rope. I better untie it, because we never went through a drill of throwing the raft out, you know. We were told what we were supposed to do, but I mean, we never really said to cut it off or untie it. So I thought maybe that rope will come in. So I untied it and then bailed out. And then, of course, when we met Bino, when him and I commenced to unfold it and turn it up and try to inflate it. You know, we were doing that, and there was men bobbing up and around behind us there, because they dropped out. I don't know how anybody else got out, because like I say,
Yeah, we all got out there.
They all went out.
Livingston went out the elevatorman's window, and the rest of us went out the
back door, because somehow in that turmoil, I never seen anybody go. I must have been either knocked against the wall there or hanging out that window, and when I pulled myself back in, it was empty.
The scary part was that if he'd have gone out the back,
Yeah.
we would not have had the raft, because Bino wasn't able to swim fast enough to get back to the ship, because the wind was starting to take it
Had a big
downwind.
sail, sure.
Yeah, so that...
And I was so close to just to raise my butt up a little bit and drop out, because I had most of me hanging out when I come out of that.
You said butt?
Oh, well,
That's a good word.
Oh, that's,
It's okay.
we can use but. Oh, all right.
and I thought, you know, the hat went underneath, you know, went gone right away. It's in this wool hat, so I thought, well, you know, I'll just pull myself back up. Maybe, you know, somebody's in here and we're going to do something. Well, that was, if I didn't do that, none of us would have been here. And that was I mean, it wasn't something that, it just sort of, I don't know, it just happened. I mean, I just decided I better go out the door and set her out that window, which I was halfway out when I come.
Then the raft is inflated with CO2?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
big
CO2.
bottle.
Mhm.
Now, we had a 7-man raft, but there were 10 of us. And we swam over and got in, and there were, some of the people were further upwind, so I started rowing and had, you put the oars together. They were aluminum in sections. And so I was able to row up enough so that they were able to get the rest of the people in the raft. So by that time, the airship was on its way. It kind of disappeared into the mist, and I'm sure, you know, it sank later when it got off wind. So there we were. It was cold as a dickens, and we had water in the raft, and so we decided to let the riggers bail. So about 4 of us went over the side, and we just couldn't keep the water out of the raft. It was. And that's the way most of the day we stayed with the water in the raft itself.
How high were the seas?
About 12 feet, you know. So about 2 hours later, we were riding like a roller coaster, up one side and down the other. We rode up this one and the wave broke and just flipped the raft and everybody right out. And so it took a while to get back together. I'd had old Sea Scout training. We used to go out and tip boats over just for the fun of it, so I had the fellows get to either end of the raft, and I was able to get up on one side a little bit, and one of the men threw a line to me on the other side, so I was able to pull it to me and caused the raft, incidentally, was leaking all day long, and so it was soft enough that I pulled back a lip, and the next wave that caught it picked it up and just righted it again. And I was telling Tom, I'm underneath this thing. Everybody's grabbing it all around, you know, and I finally had to dive down and swim out to get in.
And it's dark all this time?
No, this was still daytime, yeah, because we went in about 8 in the morning, and this was about 10.
It was a dark day.
Yeah, it was a dark,
rainy,
rainy, yeah, a low ceiling and still heavy waves. And we rode that way all day long, and I remember somebody wanted to start to sing. Well, it was so cold your teeth would chatter, you know, so that ended that. I don't know what stage of the game I had come up from South America, and I didn't have any heavy flying gear. So I had on a summer jacket, an intermediate jacket, 2 pairs of pants, and my work shoes. And I had a Navy knit cap, watch cap, and I was cold, so I pulled it down all the way over my head, and I talked to Livingston later. They thought I'd gone nuts. I'm sitting there, you know, but you can see through those
One way.
knit caps, you know, so it kept my eyes and ears.
Were they able to get off a signal to that you were ditching at sea?
We took not the radio, apparently, because the engines were being cut and they weren't able to get contact the base. Ensign Lee was able to get the Very pistol, and he had cartridges that he passed out to different people. So we had a signal, and they shot one off about the first hour, just, you know, kind of like...
But nobody knew that you were really ditched?
No, nobody knew we were down yet, and because we had no message out. Now, it was about 3 in the afternoon, a PBM flew by, and you didn't see it.
No, I seen the plane,
You saw,
but
you saw the ship, though.
I seen the ship, but I
About an hour later, no, about 20 minutes later, somebody said, "There's a mast." Well, all day long people were saying, "There's a plane, you know, there's a mast," and I figured, oh, there's another false alarm, but I said, "It really is," and it was.
Had the seas let up at all?
No, we still had heavy seas, and as it got closer, it looked like it was a destroyer escort, a DE, and of course as soon as they saw it, they started shooting off the flares. And I talked to somebody on the bridge of the ship later. He said it looked like the 4th of July out there, because at 4 o'clock it was starting to get dark. And as they came towards us, then they turned away. They actually turned to get upwind from us to make it calm to pick us up. And they thought they were leaving us, and I guess it was Livingston, the last shot he fired, he hit the bridge with the very pistol shell. So they came alongside, and I grabbed a line that they threw down, because I knew if the way we were sitting in the raft, the end I was in was sort of like the bow.
What was the condition of the men in the raft at this time?
Everybody was okay except Ensign Voss. After the PBM flew by, he stood up in the raft, and then he just slumped down, and he was sort of like in a coma. And so I reached across, and I was holding his head with my hand, holding his head and chin out of the water, because the bottom of the raft had water in it. So when they threw the lines down, I reached around, I had the line like this, and I had Voss like this, and as the ship went forward, it pulled the raft to it, but just as we got alongside, one of these big waves took the raft and it slammed it right into the side of the ship. So I went out, and a man named Spaulding went over my head, and he hit the ship. And some of the men in the middle of the raft slipped into the water, but when it righted itself again, they came in. So I ended up, all I remember, I was still had hold of the line, and I was ahead of the raft, and I had my arm over the lip of the raft. And I don't remember anything after 2 hours from that. But I know just before this happened, we were coming up almost deck level, and then we were down to almost the keelson level. And then Tom has to take it from here, because he and Bino, the other rigger, did most of the work in getting the people aboard.
Yeah.
Well, they threw lines and ladders and things.
Different, the way I remember it, when that ship come about there to try to get that there raft in, you know, on that windward side there. The ship would go forward and he'd reverse it, and then one time I seen underneath, I could see the screws right underneath the screws. The ship would. And then the next thing, we were up by the bow, and the bow came up, and it looked like we were going under. When they come down, it went without missing us, you know.
Pretty
and then
dangerous situation.
Oh yes, for long. And then the water was beating up on the sailors up on the deck there, hitting them up there. And then they start dropping straight lines with no loops in them, no bows or nothing, you know. And
we were too weak to.
And we couldn't hang on. And then Ensign Livingston was trying to holler to him to put. And then in the meantime, some young fella, one sailor, jumped off the ship up there, and then he hit the water, and we had to put him. And when he hit the cold water, he just couldn't do nothing. He just sort of got paralyzed. So we had to tie him on too and take him up. And Mr. Livingston got up there. And I guess somehow or another communicated to drop loops.
How many hours after the crash is this?
Oh gosh.
8.
8 hours?
Yeah. We went in about 8 in the morning, and they picked us up about 4.
And then I seen, Spaulding, when he come back off the catapulted up on that.
He's the man that hit the side of the ship.
Hit the side of the ship, and I guess I was on the side there. They just got it in the back, and didn't get catapulted. And then tried to grab him, and then somebody hollered up there, leave him go, we got a watch on him, that's an order, you know. I was just about, figured I could get him. I said, oh, if I just get over the side. But I didn't realize, when we tried to tie them ropes on there, we grabbed the rope with the palm of our hands and tried to force it underneath the rope that went around the raft, and get the teeth and pull on it, and then try to push it over again and get a big enough loop, and then get it. So somehow or another, between 2 or 3 or 4 of us, they're working on them 2 ropes that we finally got secured forward and aft to kind of hold us there midship. And then
they told me Spaulding was drifting off. They threw a line over him, and he didn't respond. Then they put the ship's searchlight on him. But by the time they picked everybody up, they couldn't find him.
it took a long time for them to get each one of us up there, you know.
And Voss, he was also in the water?
I lost grip of him, and I understand he ended up with his upper body in the water and his legs in the raft. They took him aboard unconscious, and he died the next day, I think.
Sometime shortly after,
Yeah,
I know.
and I didn't last too long.
He didn't.
Now we're coming to a good part, because I had a sore jaw, and I was told that I wouldn't let go of this line I was holding on. And I was told one of the riggers hit me in the jaw to make me let go and gave me another line to grab. And I want to know, in front of all these millions of people that are going to see this video, are you the one that hit me in the jaw? Because I'm gonna,
Don, I told you that before, we had so many different things going on there that I kind of forgot that issue, you know? I mean-
you're not supposed to hit an officer in the jaw, you know.
Well, that's why I'm
you
not,
know.
that's
why
why
you're
I
not
don't
talking.
remember.
Oh, I see. All right.
Yeah, well, it was a mess there for a while, you know, and then finally, one by one, everybody got aboard and,
Dried out?
well, dried out. I can only remember my
Yeah,
situation.
I want
up
to
there.
tell you something, you have a good one to tell. I woke up in the exec's bunk, it was about 2 hours later, and there was a about 2/3 of the ship were seasick.
Oh, yeah.
The
at least-
ship
at
was
least.
an APD, and it was on a shakedown cruise from Boston to Bermuda, and over 2/3 of the crew were green, and they were just sick, seasick.
Literally green.
Yeah, literally green. Anyway, I was in the exec's bunk, and they had a sailor on a death watch on me, and he was sitting in front of the basin in the room because he was ready to vomit more, you know. We hadn't eaten all day, you know, and I finally come to, and I asked him, any place I can get something to eat, you know, and so then I found a galley, and I opened up some canned peaches, which I normally don't care for, but they tasted pretty good that time. So, but I think what is really interesting, tell them about your buddy that you ran into.
Oh, yeah. Well, then when I got in there, I didn't see any of my shipmates or nothing there. I mean, I was put in a bunk on the side there where they used to carry maybe the troops, the Marines or something.
Yeah, this was a transport they converted to a
So
transport.
I was out in sort of in the bulkhead here inside, but it was away from any room or anything. So they give me a couple of cups of coffee, a couple of cups of soup, and 2 cups of brandy, and
So you're not
pretty
supposed to
things-
have booze on Navy ships, but they managed to
maybe
find some.
Medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
that was medical.
Medical, yeah, medical.
Because they got it out of the medicine time, but they said. So then things got pretty rosy, you know, I felt pretty, and of course then I started feeling the, like ants crawling up my legs, the nerves started, you know, pick up again. I could feel something, because from here down, it was just numb. And I'm laying there, and I'm pretty well, you know,
Oil.
soused up there, I imagine, from them two, you know, with nothing. We didn't have-
Medicated.
We didn't have
Medicated,
nothing to
yeah.
eat since the night before.
Right.
And,
And you were the rigger, you were supposed to feed us.
oh, I know, but we were flying, we were on the ship up there forward most all night, you know, steering it. But anyway, a guy comes up to me and he says, Tom, he looked down at that bunk and he says, what the heck are you doing here? And by that time I recognized him. It was a fellow in my neighborhood that we played ball together and went to school together on the same bus.
Back home.
And they joined the
Back home
Navy.
in Ohio, and he's on this ship as a machinist mate, you know.
What
And
a
then I said-
coincidence, huh?
And I said, Jeff, what, you know, I can remember saying that, I couldn't get the words, instead of saying Jeff, I said Jeff, you know, because it was a surprise to me, and of course, that everything was taking a hold, I just felt pretty rosy, you know, right then and there. And
So did you guys head back to
Yeah,
Boston at that
we
time?
almost got to Bermuda, and they got word to have us come back to Boston. So, let's see, we took off on the 5th, we crashed on the 6th, and then all day of the 7th, we were coming back through the evening, and then we got back in Boston the morning of the 8th.
Did the weather let up at all?
It started to ease up after a while, and tell them about what the skipper said, you know.
Oh, when I was out walking around the next day out there, and I went up on the bridge, you know, and looked at things over, because we didn't get much chance on the you know, ship to see things. We're up in the air like that all the time. But I mean, I wanted to see what the bridge looked like, and the skipper says, gee, oh, he said something, geez, correct, he said something like that. And he said, here, my whole crew is sick, and he said the survivors are up walking around.
And you
Run the
helped
ship.
them out with the signalman, remember?
Yeah, then the signalman wanted me to, you know, try to
Stand to watch.
coming in there for when we come into Boston, you know, to pick up some signaling there. Well, I told him, I said, boy, I said, I don't know, my eyes and everything else from being out here in this water all day yesterday, or 2 days ago, whatever it was. But he got the signals. But that was, you know, quite a coincidence. Like,
What kind of welcome did you get when you got back to?
you know, I can't remember that. I got
Your
that.
wife was glad to see you.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
but she didn't even know. Somebody had called her, said, well, you know, we found out that they're okay. She said, what do you mean they're okay? Because she's lived up there in Rockland, Massachusetts. I had rented a place up there.
And you were
It
just
was almost
moving
the
up
same
there.
for me. I was only married for 3 weeks, and I called home to tell Mary I was fine. She says, "Why shouldn't you be?" You know, so she didn't know about it either. So we docked, and they sent 2 of us to Chelsea's Naval Hospital. They sent me because I had blacked out for about a couple hours, and I forget. You said
Craven was
Craven.
another one. He said he had his back hurt, but he told me
Later
when I
he hurt
later
his
he
head.
had his head hurt.
So then I went to Chelsea, and I didn't see anybody again. They broke the crew up, and since I really didn't know them anyhow, I didn't see them again.
Did everybody continue flying?
I was told that the other 2 pilots didn't want to fly anymore. And I mean, I'm getting this about third hand, so it may or may not be true, but Tom wasn't able to find them anywhere. And so about a year and a half ago, I get a letter and explained that he was Tom Johnson, and he'd gone into a tire shop back in Ohio, and there was a picture of a blimp on the wall, and he talked to the fellow who said, yeah, he used to fly blimps, and they brought out a roster of the Naval Airship Association, which I had belonged to, and Tom was looking through and he saw my name, so we eventually got together on the phone. He wanted to know if I was that skinny ensign from California that was on the ship with him, so that's how we made contact about a year and a half ago.
Yeah. But did you continue flying?
Yes.
For how long?
Well, until the war, well, no, actually, through the war, and then I flew in the reserve squadron until they disbanded the airships.
How about you, Tom? Did you continue?
I went out with another crew just sort of as a, fill-in. I don't know whether they were just, testing me or just get my time in, but I did go out in February, and it was pretty, not a bad day like that, but it was a lot of wind. And they started asking me, what would you do? I said, just keep this thing slow enough so we can get over the land and we can walk home from there, Because it, going over to cutting across Buzzards Bay out through Cape Cod there, I think it took us quite a few hours just to get the 20 or 30 miles across there because you're bucking the wind. So they were a little bit, concerned too because we did blow pieces by.
How often did they lose airships?
Not too often, although most of the crashes were due to weather more than anything else. Interesting, my next flight was a month later, which usually you fly right away, but for some reason I didn't. And we were out on about an 18-hour hop. And I went back after I'd been on the controls for a nap, and I woke up and we were in the same kind of weather we'd been in just before we went into the storm, and my leg started dancing and foot, and I got up, I went forward, and I stayed on the controls for about 5 hours till we got back home. And fortunately, that was the only reaction I ever had. I never had another problem flying, and I never even dreamed of it, which is fine.
It's still something you remember for a long time.
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
right.
seen it.
Yeah.
So that water was coming up over that
It's
bottom.
not like pure fortune that they found you anyway.
Oh, we were lucky. The only reason the ship did, they carried 4 big Higgins boats because they were an assault landing craft, a fast transport that would land Marines. And the Higgins boats were coming loose, and they changed course for 20 minutes to run with the waves and tie things down, and that's the only reason they would have found us. And the Wakefield, as she was going into Boston, met the line coming out, and they told them that maybe there was an airship down. They weren't sure. And so they knew that there was a possible airship down, but they didn't know where or anything else. So that's our story, and
It's not just very, lots of good luck times.
all the way around.
Yeah.
There was no reason we should have been picked up. All the odds against us. We had a
well,
leaky raft. They didn't know where we were. We were getting nighttime and cold.
Sitting in
And-
water up to our waist all day long.
And it was funny. I didn't see how we could be picked up. I really
20
didn't.
miles away from shore were you?
I really don't know. We must have been out beyond.
I have no idea.
I really don't. Probably maybe at least 100, I would think. And yet, with all those things like that, I kind of thought we'd make it, and I don't know why.
No reason not to,
No,
sure.
yeah.
'Cause I know I did see Bermuda's shoreline in the morning, and we got picked up in the evening, like 4:30 or 5. It took us I think an hour to get us all on there, I would guess. And then when we got up and was walking around, the fellow said we're going to Bermuda, and that's what they were supposed to head for. And I could see the thing, so I don't know if you can figure out how fast that ship was going.
You told me, I said I was gonna buy
Oh, yeah, you had, when
I was gonna buy an automobile, I had $100. I don't remember this, he told me.
yeah,
that.
he says, well, I got $100 on me, fellow. When we hit Bermuda, he says, we're gonna go in there and they're gonna spend it all. And then when they turn, well, of course, that was.
I saved $100.
But that.
Well, you got anything to add to it? Sounds like a pretty interesting
No,
story.
that's good.
Glad you guys are here.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we'll wrap it down.
Thank you.